Welcome to Three Cops Talk. On this podcast, three active duty police officers discuss behind-the-scenes stories and real-life accounts of what it's like to be a cop. Every episode, you'll get an inside look at the challenges and dangers they face on a daily basis, as well as the triumphs and inspirational moments that make it all worth it. If you want to understand more about the men and women who put their lives on the line for us every day, then this is the show for you. And now your hosts, Chris, Scott, and Shaun.
Hey, folks, welcome back to another episode of Three Cops Talk. We're going to do a quick hit here.
Yep.
Number three, third time's a charm, they say. The first two were pretty good and weighed heavily on Big Sergeant Scott, who you just heard, the thrifty Norwegian. He is here with us today. It's a big weekend for him, big money bags. He might replace Chris as the richest guy on this podcast right now after this weekend.
No.
And then you heard the Polish Fog. He's back. He's here
what's
with
up?
us.
Actually, Chris
is happy. From our last episode, we talked about his Polish Disney. Is what we have not established where in the United States.
I have gotten a lot of good feedback on that. A lot of laughs out of that. A lot of interest too. A lot of interest. I think this might be better. We're going to put some plans together. Some cat drawings.
One other thing about Polish Disney that we didn't talk about really a lot is that at the entrance, it's all the pretty young Polish girls. That's how they lure you in. Those Polish girls lure you in. You're beautiful. And then, by the time you get midway through the park, they're asking you to marry them so you can have babies right away. And you're like, how do I get out of here right away? Chris is working on how, we're losing money here. How do we? It's it's a nuance.
It's kind of, it's a small world. It's the progression of
right.
But it's just Poland.
They're doing it right. It's only Poland. And there's a guy tuck pointing a chimney, and he's just,
security's walking around in black socks and flip-flops.
There's another guy hanging siding next to him,
Right. And every one of the shops has that big gold Polish eagle in it you got to buy. Do you have anything other than the Polish eagle?
Is there anything else? I already got a shot glass and a coffee mug, and a nail clipper.
Right. It's gonna happen, man. I'm telling you, someday.
Black
you
socks and power tools. That's all you got.
But now we're on the show number 3 here, and what we were talking about before the show started, we were talking about, I went back to the street for the first time in a long time here, and it was different. It was really, really cool. I mean, the agency I'm working for, I can't say enough good things about my coworkers, and like most other agencies, there's always a struggle for people, and it's not just there; it's everywhere in the United States. I started talking a little bit about, what was going on in Chicago and the problems that they faced, and they could relate on a much smaller scale, obviously. But one of the things that was really wild about it was some of the accoutrement that I will get when I'm finally solo on my own. I'm a previously experienced guy, and everybody kind of knows that because they walk up and they're like, "Man, you got a lot of white hair, dude."
You stole my thunder, bro. I was just laying that out there, but thanks for doing it for me.
Be your grandfather, young man, and
just for men,
or young woman, and
not as
and I'm working in an area that's really busy. It's really great. It's a lot of fun, but there's a lot of things that I'm not used to since I left the road. I left the road without body cameras, and the complaint process and things like that are what we're going to talk about a little bit today. And the body camera thing is, you got to get used to it. It's definitely people don't realize about cops, everything's about habit and gear. And when you get gear and how you establish yourself over a period of time is hey, there's a new piece of gear I got to work. I can't imagine, Chris, what it was like when you transitioned from being just a standard patrol officer to now becoming an active canine. There are so many different things that a canine officer has to have. That's why a lot of times you see canine cops in different uniforms, because it's there's just not enough space in your belt. You can get as fat as you want, but the dog's going to drag your ass, and you know what I mean? I'm lying. You need
Why
a
are you saying that to him? That's not
wow.
Is that
saying,
a fat
Chris,
joke?
I'm just saying canines in general.
Just because my head fills up the screen here? That's
And to me, it was the body cam thing. It was always oh, this thing just doesn't turn on. It doesn't know to turn on by itself.
Right.
When I'm talking to somebody, because you're always talking to somebody when you're out of the car. So I'm whatever. So the first night my body camera, the battery started to die, and they're all looking at me like, "You're the oldest fucking rookie we've ever seen." I'm yeah, but this is kind of new. I mean, I thought this was going to be black.
But let me plug it into my pacemaker.
Yeah, right. And my insulin pump. And it's the battery's draining all 3 of these things. And then the other thing I'm going to get is I'm going to get a car. I'm going to get a take-home car for the first time I've ever.
Dude, those are sweet.
That's cool.
Car.
Sweet.
And I, like, you know, like we talked about this on previous shows. I'm not exactly a car guy. I'm not a big car dude, but I do like the idea of like, yeah, Scott's not a car guy. Scott went every time I said that, he would make a comment about it. There's a great picture that I found the other day when I was going through my stuff from moving, because we did have some flooding down here, by the way. And it was really cool. Like, you know what's cool about flooding in your house? It gives you a great opportunity to realize you're losing all of these memories that you had packed in cardboard boxes. So luckily, I'm like, oh, well,
all your Polaroid pictures.
Yeah, right.
They're floating away.
Right. And then, but I did find the one picture where you and I, that freezing cold night, we seized that car and we're riding in the car together, and we're driving. We're
like
close.
the beat up. It's like a beat up Ford Taurus or whatever it was. Yeah.
And my son says to me, "Dad, why weren't you driving?" I go, "Do you even know me? I mean, are you my son? Do you know me? Like, look who I got with me. I got Scott. Like, he's the driver. You know, I'll get out and maybe do something with a gun." But
you couldn't
like
see in the picture.
Baby driver.
Sean was also peeing in a bottle in that one too. Just, you couldn't see that.
God, there's like a bathroom right over there. Go pee right now.
No, I'm peeing now. We're not stopping. Just stopping.
So you know it's cold. It's not always like this. Anyway, but that was pre-prostate too. So now I don't have to pee at all during shift, which is cool. But anyway, the body camera thing is really, it's amazing. And I really, like, at first I was like, I don't know how I'm going to like this, like every little interaction, because I mean, if you listen to the show, you know, like I just say what I say.
Right.
And out in the street, so many things can be misinterpreted by people. Like, oh, that officer was profane, or that officer said something that was condescending, or that officer this or that. But I'm going to be honest with you, I'm really getting really comfortable with it, because at the end of shift, my trainer was like, yeah, here's the downloads, whatever. You got to remember to turn it on a little sooner than this. So, you know, remember, I'm like, oh, yeah. Like, is it for everything? Is it not for everything? But it's actually, as you work your way through, you realize it's I think it's way better for us than what it was. Now, the car we can get into a little bit later, but the body cam thing is really helpful, because you can go back and, you know, defend yourself with these things in a lot of ways. Like, we fought it as a profession for the longest time. I don't know if you guys remember, like, guys were like, oh man, screw this. When we got in-cars, just in-cars alone, a lot of guys shut down and stopped working.
Right.
And it really has brought much more justification in the idea of professionalism within our profession, because, like we always say, nature abhors a vacuum. And the vacuum is usually filled with negativity. And we had nothing out there that, other than it was my word against your word. And if I was dealing with a nefarious individual, which the vast majority of police officers, when they're out there with the public, are dealing with people of that ilk. I'm not saying it's universal, but those folks will lie. Right. They will lie and lie and make millions of dollars lying about it. There's a burgeoning industry in Chicago. Everybody knew about it when we were up there. One year they paid out like $55 million, I think I read in a little study that I did. And the average payout was like $1,500.
Yeah.
That's just a lot of people that just use that system as a means of getting like, supplementing their cash, because the city was like, we don't have the time to deal with this because we have no lack of proof. We don't have enough investigators to investigate homicides, much less complaints about police officers that are unfounded. And it takes forever because, you know, it's not the crime of the century. You're just complaining you didn't like the way he talked, or you did something you thought you violated. So like, here's $1,500, go away. And people are like, oh, I'm cool with that. And then you go back to the hood and you're like, hey, guess what?
I just got $1,500.
I just got $1,500. Yeah. You know, no, I mean, they'll give you $1,500, and then you go and do it. And again, I'm not saying like the hood because it's, you know, a racial thing. I'm saying it's just like just where these things go on, the neighborhoods. You go back to whatever one it is.
Criminal activity. That's all it is.
Right. And I was like, wow, these body cameras are really cool, but. I really hope.
Well, all three of us have been involved in lawsuits. I mean, you do this profession long enough, especially if you work in any kind of like proactive, you know, type unit or canine or like anything that we've done. You end up, you ultimately, and sometimes it's even over things that you don't even think would have been some. That's what's the most odd thing. You're like, wait a second, like I, you know, like fought with this guy, or you know, I had some big thing over here and nothing ever came of it, and then. Like this stupid thing over here is the thing that I got sued for. But I can tell you from like ones that we've been involved in, and I was directly involved in one with Shaun that went on for a year and a half with all the everything beyond that. I mean, that one would have been over and done with and never even would have been a thing. Honestly, had the body cams been around back then.
Or an in-car even for that.
Right. I mean, that wouldn't have happened because that was so many different takes on things. And, you know, I don't, the position I'm in now, I'm not fielding complaints from things that, you know, stuff that's going on. It's an investigations job, and typically people aren't like out doing things with people, you know, out on the street that generates complaints. But I've had that I've had that as a supervisor before, as a patrol supervisor. And now that you have, basically the way it's always been, correct me if I'm wrong, is a person makes a complaint. sometimes it's handled maybe at the immediate supervisor level. Sometimes it maybe goes up beyond that. And obviously, depending on the seriousness of the complaint or what the circumstances were, it's going to go to your internal affairs, people. And that's what they're there for. And all they have, just like the rest of us, like all of society, all we have to go off of is what the people are telling us and maybe witnesses to it, very similar to a criminal trial.
Right.
And so that's what it's been. You take all the facts, you say, what were the circumstances of this? Who are the parties that are involved? Who are the officers that are involved? Do I have any other independent witnesses? Anything that can add to this? Any bystanders? People, if it was a traffic stop, somebody walking by, or it was a fight in a downtown area and I had somebody there that was a witness, and you take all of that and they ultimately have to make a decision. And sometimes maybe the officer's exonerated and it's unfounded. Sometimes maybe they did do something wrong and they catch whatever their discipline is for it. But now that you're looking at it from a body cam standpoint, if there's video footage of it, it's going to be pretty cut and dry. Whether if this person said, this officer, used profanity with me and talked to me and was demeaning to me, and okay, well, let's go to the camera,
Right.
Actually, no, he might have talked to you sternly, or maybe that you just didn't like, because how many times this happened? The officer was rude and mean to me.
Right.
No, you just didn't like what the outcome of it was. It's not necessarily that they were rude or mean or profane with you. It was just that you didn't like what happened,
Right.
And so maybe it just is a situation like that. Like, well, the officer wasn't nasty or mean to you, but I'm sorry that you maybe just don't like the outcome. But I imagine that there's going to be a lot of those where it's going to be pretty simple to say, or, and even to go back on the front side, because we're getting in the habit now of these body cameras, you're telling people, hey, just so you know, you're being audio and video recorded.
Right. And the behavior changes. I've watched that this weekend just alone, my first weekend.
Right.
Like after I figured out,
and you see it right on the front of you. It's going like, hey, it's right here. So anything you say, and how people always be holding their phones and waving their phones. That was like the first incarnation of this. Everybody's waving their phone and recording everything with the phone. Well, go ahead and record with your phone. I'm wearing this thing for 12 straight hours. It's catching everything.
Right.
So go, record away. I've got an equally a copy of it right here on my chest because I got it right on the front of me.
Right.
And my trainer told me, like, we'll get this downloaded at the end of the shift. I was like, do we take this to a photomat or something? It's like they just to film out. It's like, you're not clicking the camera every time we put these things out. Like, what are we doing here? I'm like, how does this work? And he's like, no, it's all digital now. I'm like, so there's not like little people in there working on this stuff, like tiny shrunk down people.
You're
super
because
science.
You're in training. Yours is just filled with Tic Tacs. It's actually just a Tic Tac box.
No, a Pez. It's a Pez dispenser.
It was that officer with the really fresh breath.
Oh yeah, we know that guy.
We
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, we know that guy.
Oh, man. But see, I don't know what the policies are, but I find it where it's, when people complain, and we've talked about this on a number of shows, like, listen, comply and complain. And then the outcome of it is all on film. And I'm telling you, over the long run, I think, you're going to have municipalities that are going to save millions of dollars, not only in lawsuits, but officers' time on the street. Because now you're not calling the officer in to sit and do an interview and all this other stuff, because our policy is every time you come into the substation, you have to put it into so it downloads. And then the other policy
goes into like a dock or something, right?
Yep. And then at the end of the shift, you have to make sure that your camera is completely downloaded before you go home.
Yeah, you don't leave until, from what I understand, you don't leave until it's done. And like they've even allowed it, like you can download it within your vehicle if you have a take-home car. Like you can download it in your vehicle and it's uploaded to a cloud server where it's all saved. This magical cloud, another place, like it's like it must be God's cloud because it's like that's so much data from what it was explained to me. But it's like people didn't realize this when we first started. One of the biggest struggles for police agencies is we can't afford this. We can't afford. People want this. They demanded it, and then we got it. And what had started to happen was people were like, two things happened. One, police agencies are like, we have no line item for this budget-wise. They said get these because obviously politicians reacted to the mobs like screaming, yelling, and then there's
to the 30-second clip.
Right. And it's from someone's cell phone, probably not even a body camera. And then the other issue is like people don't realize is like it takes time to present this in a manner like we talked about with Tamron Holden in that show because, going forward, she's huge on that. Like you need people that are really good versed in like largely artistic to be able to tell a story with the body camera, because we all know the video only tells one story from one perspective, what's going on. A lot of times I look at body camera, I'm like, all I saw with this guy's inner arms and the sleeve tattoo that he had as he was pointing a gun, I don't know what he was looking at, what he was seeing, how inclusive or conclusive that it was. But by and large, the thing about all of it is it's like it's very like, this costs money, time, and resources, and we never were budgeted for it. So now it's part of it. Like, state laws were made, like it's mandated that an agency has body-worn cameras, and the officers, if you're out on the street, this rank or below, whatever the GO says or the law says, you have to have them, and they have to be downloaded at the end of every shift. And it was just like, okay, where's the funding for this? Because again, we don't make money
I think the funding's going to come. Obviously, they had to put all this money out. I think the funding's going to come from all the money that they're saving, because, like, again, I don't know what your policies are at your respective departments, but if somebody has a complaint, all they'll do is the sergeant will call us and say, "Hey, go to the closest substation, download your body camera," and then we're back on the street doing what we are paid to do and what we swore to do, and they're taking care of that. And then and again, they'll be like, "Okay, let's watch this together." And they watch the whole thing. And if there's a complaint and we were out of policy or out of pocket or whatever, the boss writes it up, sends it upstairs, does the apologies or whatever, sends it upstairs. Or he looks at them and go, what do you think? What do you think?
Right.
And it's either over or it progresses because we were wrong.
Right. And the thing too here that's important, there's like the caveat to this is, because I'm not going to lie, I had mixed feelings about the body cam stuff, and there's a lot of different things, involved in like the whole body cam process, but everybody, needs to remember that it shows a lot of information. It shows a lot, you envision everything, seeing everything that's going on, but they don't always capture, to your point, Shaun, like, you see the guy's arms out with the gun and he's shooting somebody, from the body cam, but it doesn't give you always a full perspective of everything. So it's not just this magic thing that there's, hey, it's the body cam. There's nothing else to this. You know what I mean? It's not, it's a very important, big piece of it, but there are sometimes other factors involved in that too. So,
sure.
And that's a two-way street. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you've seen those videos where, like, it looks like one copper just shot the guy, and then you have the other copper that comes in, you get the angle of his camera. And then the guy that's shooting, you can't see the gun because of the gun's in the way of the body cam. But when you have the other cop come in, his angle, the guy's does not only have a gun, but he's shooting at us.
Right.
Right.
So I mean, it's a big part.
So you got to take that. Yeah, you got to take that into account too when you're looking at all that stuff. And it's the same thing goes for when you're talking about what we're talking about here, when you're using it for like those types of things. If someone's coming in and making a citizen complaint, just like we would want to say, well, there's factors that aren't, that you can't see or feel because of, what was going on in their situation. Well, you got to afford that same thing to the person that's coming and making that complaint to you as well.
Right.
Right. Yeah. And another aspect of being a police officer, you've got to be, and I know this is going to sound funny, but like, you have to be somewhat artistic. Like where you put the body camera on your body matters as to what it sees. Like mine's all like Blair Witch Project shit. It's all like shooting up my nose and I'm sniffling and crying because I'm so frightened of everything. Like, and the sergeant's like, "What is this? Do you realize it's like?" I'm like, "Do you realize?"
But his is in black and white.
At my age, every day it's a battle of like dealing with hair growing out of holes that you never had growing out of it before. Like that's the battle.
And
this
it's actually video of you in the locker room clipping your nose there, like
body cam. You gotta go yeah. Sorry, dude.
Yeah. We can't redact that. I'm sorry.
But speaking of that, to be funny, one of the things I said to the guys that I was training with, I guess, what would be a great video of like the officers that are dealing with the subject, the person like, wherever in crowd situations, like the officers are dealing with the unruly subject or the person that got out of control or whatever, whatever it is we're dealing with, mental health related patients, things like that. But the shithouse attorneys that walk up and want to advise you that they don't like what you're doing now, because everybody is a citizen journalist, like walking up, I'd love to like do a video compilation of the year from every officer out there, that how many interactions they had with people that walked up and said, "I don't like what you're doing. I'm therefore going to interfere with what's going on here on the street." Like to use as a community education type thing of like, could we ever progress to that point where people are like, "Hey, America, here's something that every police agency in America sees that really makes this much more difficult," because dealing with someone that's unstable, requires your full attention. And at times it's
Right.
requiring so much attention that's primal attention, where you have to focus so much that you are actually shutting out other things. So when you walk up and you go, hey, I don't like what you're doing here because I just saw the last 2 seconds of this in a drunken stupor, stumbling out of a bar without
Right.
my heels on now. And I want to tell you that I don't like what you're doing. That's like, hey, you don't know what's going on. Don't come in here and make this worse, because we now have video of you interfering with that process. Some states can actually allow you to be prosecuted for that.
Yep.
And it will be great video proof that's like, hey, if you don't like it, again, get your phone out, record it, and see what's going on. Submit it. But again, that video will also be like, I've got this in my phone. That's cool. Give me your phone, because it's now a form of evidence.
Right.
In addition to this, if you want to make an official complaint, be prepared that your phone is going to be downloaded, plus all your sexy selfies and everything else in there. I'm kidding. That's not going to happen. That's second
Right.
part.
No, that's
I don't
just
have-
you.
That's
Yeah,
just
that's
you.
just yours.
This is me. Do you have any sexy
Yeah.
selfies in here, ma'am? It's on the sheet. I gotta ask. It's not me. It's a morality
Yeah.
thing more than
And what's
anything else.
and what's weird is you're asking it like at a community contact at a gas station.
Yeah,
It
right.
actually has nothing to do.
Right.
Like, wait, what? Wait, this doesn't.
And
have
she's at the
anything to
desk
do
like going,
with it.
that officer was asking me about my feet and if I had any pictures of them. I was like, what? The sergeant's like, what did he say?
Yeah.
And luckily for me, the body camera's just pointed up my nose, so they can't prove it one way or the other.
Right,
You know what I
right.
mean? It's like,
Yeah, and,
joking
and
about
the
all
other,
that, of course.
like, the other 4 hours of the 10-hour shift is you peeing.
yeah, right.
So it's like,
It's like
how much?
that's how they figured out I had a prostate problem. Like they
Right.
they
That
had
body cam
enough-
saved your life.
they had enough footage to be able to determine. It's like, wow, it's low
This
flow,
is
bro. You gotta go
excessive.
check
This is
out. Like that's how they saved me. That's what it is. Like anyway, but the only other thing that I think is really going to be cool is like the honestly, no bullshit, is the take home car. I was like,
Dude,
I don't know.
I
Now
can't
they're
tell
rolling
ya.
with this dude.
Oh,
I'm like, what's it like, Chris? It's freaking awesome. I mean, like I'm thinking like they
it's
give you a
not
gas
only- it's-
card.
They give you a gas card. They give you like everything. So your car, when you go pick up your car, you got a checklist. It's all there, ready to go, clean. Here's your keys, gas card, everything.
So
that
wait,
you
somebody's toenails aren't going to be in there that aren't mine?
need. Nope, nobody's
Wait
nobody's
a
gonna.
minute, what? Wait,
Nobody's
wait,
gonna
wait,
like
seriously?
the
Really?
onions from the polo sausage under the
Yeah,
seat.
right.
Not that it's
No-
all and anything in there. It's all you. And then
Nobody
you get
else's dander, whether it
Nope.
be a dog or a human.
right.
Right,
Then we
right.
get up in the morning, you go out, your car is there. You don't gotta, the only
Well, it's
thing
like your
is-
office. I mean,
Yeah,
It
or
is.
it's like a little part of my home. I'm thinking of how to do it. Can I get an air fryer with like one of those plugins for the lighter? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this. Like,
right. Yeah.
But every call, I'm like broken down. Like, oh, my car won't start,
Right.
Sergeant.
He's
What
got
happened to
one
that?
of those little
Must be the
coolers in there.
alternator.
He's got one of those little coolers in there, like the Polish,
Right.
like the Polish
He's
Uber
like,
drivers.
Ferguson,
Just
why
for
is your
sausage
car
and
always
stuff.
breaking down? Why is your battery always dead?
Yeah.
I'm not sure, Sarge, but do you want a jalapeno popper? I just made it. He's like, idiot.
No,
Yeah,
dude.
your car's gone through 8 alternators in 6 months, and they're like, "What keeps this got to be a recall? There's a recall."
You guys are discriminating against me because of my hobbies. I like to dry my own fruit. You know what I mean? It's like,
I make my own jerky throughout the shift.
you know how much that jerky got me out of complaints from place? Man, you guys are like,
Right.
because you know how it is. Like, as soon as you take these guys, because you got a cigarette, man, you got
Yeah.
something I can eat. It's just like,
Oh, I got deer jerky. What?
Yeah, and you're,
Right.
you're driving people to jail, and you're looking at the camera in the backseat, and they're just like, You're like,
good.
like
Right.
he's
Is
got
that-
smelled like it's like
he's like
is
he
that
puts it in a plastic
teriyaki.
bag.
Like
Yeah, is that cherry? Is that cherry? Is that cherry? I don't know. But I'm glad you noticed. Thank you. Thank you very much. You know what I mean?
and
Anyway.
you've got like the little wax warmer in there to get rid of like the foot smell and all the nasty
Oh, yeah,
smell from
right,
like the
right,
people that
right.
you're taking to jail.
Right,
and it's just,
right,
but
right.
it's just like it's
Right.
on the dash and it's just ready to.
But it's
spill
got
over
the
top.
splash guards, so it
They should actually make that like a Yankee candle, and it should just be called
Right.
Mope. You take it up, you're like, oh my god, it smells like socks. And a
Yeah.
guy that maybe doesn't really care much about his personal hygiene, but like honestly, like I'm gonna be honest with you, like when it's like. You know, you smell weed and people. I know it's illegal and a lot of people shouldn't be doing it, and shit like that. And it's a gateway drug, blah 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 blah, all that crap. But like when you smell it, it's like it's reminiscent of something for you. Like when you're a kid, when you smell like a Christmas tree, you're like, oh, it's Christmas, or grandma's baking something or whatever. Like for cops, like
I
you
just smelled
smell
cigarettes
weed,
when I was a
or
kid.
you,
But yeah.
right, and you smell mope, and you're like, oh man, this guy's legit. He's a
Yeah,
formidable
He's,
adversary. He's not some like,
he's got the scent.
he doesn't have the Scarface poster on his on his bedroom wall, and his
Right.
mom's still folding his
Right.
underwear for him. It's like, this guy's legit. He's got the sense. Like, I want those like air fresheners in my car now, like like those ones you put on the vents and they blow it out. I'm like,
It comes in a 2-pack with Carney.
right.
It's just the other one. Oh, I got the 2-pack. Yeah.
Oh, it's the Carney and mope.
Oh,
Wow,
oh, you got the gift set. Oh, you got the
wow,
gift set.
yeah,
right.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, you're so happy.
We'll have
that
those on
people-
our website, folks. Please go there and check. It'll be the
please get him going, Chris. I got a guy.
How do you get that odor? I just put my socks in there.
Yeah, right.
What?
You just think, are you drying your socks?
it's cotton candy mixed with generic cigarettes.
Yeah.
And like 4-day-old Bush Light.
Can I? What's the name of that? 350.
I'm gonna start working on some prototypes. So
Right.
let me get back to you guys with some.
Right.
I'm gonna start
Patent
putting
it,
some
though.
formula. I'm gonna put some formulas together in my garage
Right.
and see what I can come up with. But in our air, I'm making it in our air fryer so that it's totally
Right.
now it's ruined. Like
The three cops talk air fryer and Carney smell.
why is there cigarette butts in the air fryer? I was working on something. Put it in the
There's
dishwasher.
so many things that were tied into this episode. It's
yeah,
a shame.
that's-
It's a quick
wow.
hit, but I
Right.
think that's all the listeners can take at this point.
Right. But I just think, I think the big thing is the one thing I think we talked about is like coming onto the street and like we've talked about and we tried to push, through all of our episodes, now that there's a lot of avenues that, complain, that you feel you have a legitimate complaint, just comply and then just get the video because everybody's got them now. And then you could justify your complaint because a lot of times we all know sometimes we think something happens and it actually doesn't. And you just review it and whatever, and then you make a decision from there. But I don't get yourself even more jammed up by doing something, to make it worse because it's on video. And I think it just protects everybody,
You bet. And now we have the data to prove it. I mean, we do actually have the data to prove that the vast majority of the police officers working in the United States and maybe even around the world are really incredibly professional people in what they do. We
Right.
highlight the bad cases, which should be, but
Right.
it's not reflective of everyone that does the work. The vast majority of body cam video is probably like the vast majority of contacts that cops have with people.
Right.
Pretty pleasant. To the point where someone has to get stern doesn't automatically mean in this day and age that your rights are being violated because you just didn't like the way you were being spoken to. You'll
Right.
get on Twitter and blow it up and tell everybody what an asshole they are.
Sure.
But the bottom line is if somebody in turn says to you, hey, sir, you can't talk to people that way. You need to move on. People are going to offend it. Oh, well, I didn't like that. Okay, well, it's free speech and that's
Right.
part of it. But, people don't, maybe in the past didn't really realize that about us as a profession. They always just kind of believed what they were told, which was the high profile cases that make police look awful. And those
Right.
can be addressed obviously through body cams as well.
Yeah, and I think one of the other things that we also do is that the bosses kind of go through a little 10-minute class is just let it play and let it go. Don't just let it play. Let them make the decision and let them ask questions. Hey, is this a policy violation? Blah blah blah. Whatever. Let them ask the questions. But and as a policeman, it's so hard to look at them and go, see, how do you like that? Just let it all play out. Yeah, let it all play out and have an adult conversation at the end and see how it wants to go. So I just think it's been spectacular for us. I really do.
Scooter, you're the supervisor. You got to deal with this more than me and Chris do. So take us out on this. What's your closing thought?
Well, Chris summed it up the best. Comply with what's going on. Complain later. The body cams provide a lot of insight into what was happening in that incident. We're not going to change the process of how we, obviously how we investigate things or how we take complaints from the community. But the thing that I keep hitting on is I feel like from what I hear from other officers and things is that I feel like it actually eliminates a lot of that on the front. I think because when we start saying, "Hey, you're being audio and video recorded," okay. I mean, I think it changes people's mindset of their action, and it keeps us in check too with what we're doing. So it really should keep everybody on the same page. Like, hey, we're having an interaction, whether it's good, bad, or otherwise. It's all here. So if there's anything to talk about it later, it's all there for everybody to see.
Right.
And one last question for you two guys, for somebody that's new to body cameras. Do I have to shake the thing like it's a Polaroid to dry it off quicker when I take it off at night?
Right.
Or just plug it in? What do I do? No?
Yeah, no, put it in the microwave, but
Right.
only for
Yeah.
like 12 seconds. It's like warming up a piece of bread. Like,
Or actually, I'll put it in there
just
when I'm
enough
drying
to-
out my
yeah.
apples. I'm drying
Just
out my
enough to
apples
soften
for
the
my-
butter.
right next to my homemade trail mix.
just to soften the butter, right?
All right, Chris,
It'll be
take us
fine.
home. Christopher.
Thank you all for listening for this quick hit show. And again, the premise of the show is to make sure that you guys understand that body cams, we're proactive on them. We love them, and it's really making a difference out in the world. And please, if you ever have a contact with the police and you feel you're being wrong, please comply and complain later. Also, go to our website, leave an email if you have any questions or you want to, got a suggestion for the show, 3copstalk.com, or you can email us at 3copstalk@gmail.com. Thanks, gentlemen.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Ever wanted to ask a police officer a question? Mail your questions to 3copstalk@gmail.com. That's the number 3, copstalk@gmail.com, and we'll answer them on the show. Follow us on Instagram at 3copstalk. That's the number 3 copstalk. Thanks for listening, and stay safe out there.